You must be exhausted.
You know what? I'm contractually not allowed to say, but, but it's
The
definitely
smile is,
been quite fair. The smile comes, yeah.
but you're
So it's definitely been one of those where you have to track every conversation,
yes,
but it's always interesting. Like the last time there was a Neff forum where you keep tracking one and then you hear something and you say, okay, I'm going to use this at another forum and I'll be the smartest person in the room. But I go to the global
right,
gathering.
right, right.
So I definitely do appreciate the sentiments, and I know we have a lot of people to thank. So we have to get this going. At the beginning of this session, we had the CEO Ali speak and give us, what should be the mood, and people have kept with that mood. The numbers didn't dwindle as much.
Yes,
People have stayed, focused and tried to at least interact as much as possible.
yeah.
Let's get the closing remarks now. This is the closing ceremony for all of you who are joining. We'll just have four speakers, watch two videos, and then we'll be done. So we need your extreme attention. Maybe before we get that going, I'm sure all of you are curious. For all the people who are watching, all 40 plus of you, please, if you could just write a word, one word, summarizing what Neff GG was to you. Uh, One word, even all of you on screen as well.
Nice, nice, nice,
Nini,
nice.
Sanushka, Charles,
Lovely.
fantastic, inspiring, amazing.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's nice to hear someone say energizing, and it's the last session 3 days after.
Fun, 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 fun. That's
All
later.
right, very inspiring. I will tell you that. For me, it was very inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of people was scribbling a lot of notes. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. First up to speak within this closing ceremony is Professor Sanushka Naidu, Chair of the Executive Committee of the Neff Community of Scientists, rather. The Neff Community of Scientists. Prof, please take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is really my pleasure to provide a few remarks at this really historic event because it was for the first time that the global gathering was online. And I think we got a chance to view some of the most exciting talks, inspiring talks. So I would like to, on behalf of my executive committee, I would like to welcome the 2019-2020 Next Einstein Forum Fellows and Ambassadors. So on behalf of my committee, and who are they? They're Professor Vinay Kutsia, Dr. Mohammed Kamal, Dr. Edward Lidiko, Dr. David Jen, Dr. Amna Abdullah, Dr. Yabubel Fante, Dr. Halima Himatu, and Dr. Charles Kim Polo. And why do I mention their names specifically? Because these are also a fantastic group of people that I have the pleasure of working with, and we are mostly behind the scenes. We want to just say that we've really enjoyed the talks during the global gathering. We've been there, being Neff fellows and ambassadors, and we've had the experience of providing our short TED-style talks. And we've heard some really inspiring things, and we are looking forward to the impact that you will make on the African continent and beyond. So, ladies and gentlemen, who is the next Einstein Forum Community of Scientists? Well, our aim is to work together to really launch Africa as an active member of the global innovation and scientific community, driving inclusive, sustainable development. We want to harness science and innovation to solve Africa's wicked challenges. So in keeping with the theme of resilience, I want to tell you some of the highlights this year. This is where the community of scientists have been working together. We've launched several initiatives, and we've elected champions within the Next Einstein Forum Fellows. And we worked on aspects of big data. We looked at diagnostics and vaccine development. We've looked at education, and we've looked at science advocacy. We've also worked on an area of energy and infrastructure. So these groups and members were meeting virtually. We shared ideas and we generated some collaborative projects, and we are still active in these areas. So these initiatives are still ongoing, and if you're ever interested, you'll hear from the community of scientists in the community news. So that will be on the next Einstein Forum website. So we've also initiated some new partnerships, and that is with the Future Africa community and other great initiatives. So we've looked at where we can have some overlap, and we've looked at working with the Global Young Academy, Africa Science Initiative, and we've looked at places where we can develop some new projects. So the idea is really to extend our hands across the continent and to find places where we can be stronger together. So I look forward to the new era for the community of scientists, which really involves a stronger partnership with AIMS, and I want to congratulate the entire organization committee for an excellent global gathering. And that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nushka. At the back, we saw the person right next to you. Look, immediately you started speaking. So you could ask them whether they want to join the community of scientists as well. Don't leave anyone out. Don't leave anyone out at all. All right. Okay.
Definitely.
Now next, yes. All right. Let's move on.
Join.
Oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So you did mention Dr. Kim Polo. So next up is Dr. Charles Kim Polo, Director, AIMS Industry Initiative.
Thank you, Georgie, for making this event a success. We had a lot of fun having you as a MC. So in addition to leading the AIMS Industry Initiative, I'm also in charge of the AIMS next Einstein Forum. And I'm here just to represent a team of many colleagues. They are behind the scenes, as you said, who were working very hard with the support of our senior management. If you ask me how much time did we put all of this together, it was a very short time. So I just wanted to be a voice of that team, congratulate my friends, colleagues, because at AIMS we work as a family with the same passion to advance our mission, that is to serve a young African, access quality education, but also turn them into problem solvers. So we look towards your constructive feedback, because we always look for opportunity to improve. We're going to reflect on the outcome of the event, but more importantly, identify area of improvement for future edition. So as Sanushka said, this was the first time that we're doing this online for the reason that you all know, it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic. You promised your audience that we're going to do it 99.9%. So that's why we wanted to know the feedback. I can see from all the keywords that people share on the chat, it seems like we got a good event altogether. So yes, we wanted to thank all the participants, all people who made this happen, our partners. There's a lot. I don't want to get into the business of listing them, not to really forget one of the key partners. So yes, if you're listening to us, we really wanted to appreciate what you continue to do to AIMS as a partner for us to do the work that we are passionate to do. One thing I wanted to share in my speech, I just want to add on what Sanushka says so that I don't repeat what Sanushka said, welcoming the new members in the community of scientists, which is going to increase. So the community of scientists is going to now include the AIMS alumni, which is like over 2,000. So we're going to have like a critical mass of young scientists that are going to be able to really address the challenges that Africa is facing, but also contribute to global challenges, climate change being one of them. So one thing I wanted to compliment on Sanushka's speech was to share with you some data. I like data. I always like to make decisions based on data. So you might ask your question, how many people did register for this event? So as I speak, we have 1,245 successful registration on the platform. Our initial target was 1,000. So I think Lydie will attach a little bit on that. She was just asking me and Lai all the time that how many participants are there? I think this was overwhelming. We wanted to have 1,000, and then we just let our registration be open so that we don't frustrate people, because Neff used to happen face to face. People had to travel. This time it was online, and then we have many people. This is quite a big number. This is quite a surprise a good surprise for us. We did also a quick checking survey that report that for the number of participants that we have, 43.7% of them are women. That is not that bad. At EMS, we are sitting at 32% of women. We always need to push the boundary of gender balance, but having 43.7% women on successfully registered on the platform is, for us, is a good indicator. We say it was not because we moved online, but there were a lot of women who wanted actually to participate. Now, if you ask me a question about the age group, which is, the next ancient forum is about providing a platform to young people, I will share with you some statistics. So participants from age 20 to 25, 11%. I will expect most of our EMS alumni. This is the age group that you expect them to come from. Participants from age 25 to 30, 30%. Participants from age 30 to 35, 22%. And participants from 35 to 40%, we have 13%. And if you do a little bit of math, this is not math, the language of science, I like what Prof. Pusha said, we have over 76% of participants were under 40 years of age. This is what we have been actually having at Neff in face-to-face, but it's great for us to even achieve this online. And so which sector of society this participant was coming from? The private sector, government. The majority came from academic. I still need to go into data and see. Is it because we have a lot of Nobel Prize winners? What made a lot of people from academic to actually be the majority in this platform? And another statistics that I wanted to share with you, which is Neff Global Gathering is a global event. So even if we encourage this to happen on the African soil, we also wanted to open the door for people ready to participate wherever they can be. So we have participants connecting from 131 countries. So you do a little bit of mathematics. That is like 68% of the number of countries that you have in the world that was represented in the number of registration. Can we celebrate that? That's quite a good statistics also to mention. We do understand that many people actually face some challenges connecting, because the Neff Global Gathering was happening on Airmeet. This was a new platform. Many people like it, and we saw many people connecting on the network space. We know that the main reason of many people having the challenge was the internet connectivity, which raises a question beyond EMS or beyond Neff, which is how do we improve internet connectivity in Africa for young people to really connect and benefit for such events? That's a question I put it out there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, if you look at the program that we were supposed to deliver in Nairobi, there were some programs that we were not able to do online. So we received a lot of emails where people were asking, what about this program? What about this program? What I can say right now is for people just to stay tuned, because we're still discussing internally at EMS on some of those programs. So we'll be able to provide some updates on the program that did not happen online. So we look forward to continue the collaboration and having the Neff community of scientists continue to increase. And I think when you put young people ahead of science and technology, you're going to have Africa have a different face. So Prof. Kushan said that mathematics was the language of science. If we put Africa like Mama Africa, because in Africa we consider the continent to be like our mother. And every mother have a mother tongue. So I will ask the audience to say, what is the mother tongue of Africa? Shouldn't we decide during this Neff that science should be the mother tongue of Mama Africa? So if you agree with me, then we're going to tweet about that, because Prof. Pusha said mathematics is the language of science. Let science be the language of Mama Africa, so that we can advance our continent. Thank you very much. I'm very excited.
Thank you very much. I can definitely rally behind that. Science as the mother language of Mama Africa. Can definitely rally behind that. Thank you very much, Charles. You've also helped a lot, even help mentally stay very focused on the program. So thank you very much for that. And I know we were also discussing back and forth before the event started. So thank you. Now, Liddy helped us start on a solid note, and I've said that before. Now it's to make sure that the curve stays. I also like data, so the curve stays solid. Please allow me to welcome at this particular point the CEO of AIMS, Ms. Liddy Hachiziman.
You're muted.
We
You're muted.
we might have a sound problem, yeah. No, not yet.
Not yet.
The sound has logged off.
The sound is logged off.
The sound has closed the ceremony.
It looks like the connection's a bit weak.
Yes.
Can we get someone? So, Lydia, I don't know. I can just run to your office with my computer. It's not. You are muted. If you can unmute.
You're just now you're unmuted.
Can you speak?
No.
We will get her later.
So do we flip as Charles maybe helps with the computer and then we get Prof? Perfect.
That's right. Let's flip.
Okay, don't worry, Liddy. We'll come back to you in just a few minutes.
Exactly.
Thanks. All right. Okay. So Neil, I saw when I asked people about to give their comment on what exactly they thought, you said it made you miss Africa.
Of course.
Yes. Okay. Then let's hear your closing remarks, ladies and gents. Professor Neil Turok, AIMS founder and international governing board chair. Neil.
All right. Thank you very much. And I want to begin by just offering huge thank you to the organizers. This has been an incredible event. We had a very challenging year at AIMS, quite apart from the pandemic. You know, we decided to part ways with our president and CEO, Thierry Zomerhoen, earlier this year. And we've moved on. And so I'm really grateful to Liddy for having stepped in and took over as AIMS CEO. And under her leadership, AIMS has regenerated enormous enthusiasm and undergone a kind of part of that process. So huge thank you to the organizers and thank you to everybody for joining. It's really been wonderful to watch and participate in these sessions. The theme of AIMS was chosen brilliantly, I believe. Resilience through science. And when you speak about resilience, at least, is Liddy back? When we speak about resilience, I immediately think of Africa. What continent has shown more resilience than Africa? Under all kinds of tragedies and disasters, from slavery to disease to corrupt governments to you name it, African people have learned to be enormously resilient. And I want to pay tribute in particular to Wilfred Ndifon, who was really a key scientific organizer of this meeting. And he couldn't be with us because his father passed away. And so he is right now back in Cameroon with his family, burying his father. And I wanted to pay tribute to him when I WhatsApped Wilfred and I said, where are you and what's happening? He said, I'm looking after my father's affairs, but I will be back doing science on December 17th. And that's an incredible example of resilience through science. Now, I feel very emotional today because actually 1 year ago and I hope I can share that with you. Many of you know he played a big role in the founding of AIMS. He was an inspiration for me and many people. And I'm sharing memories of those very important people to you. You know, we are part of a historical tradition, and we're building on our forebears, and we're building a future for whoever comes after us. And let's just take a moment to remember all the people who have sacrificed on behalf of Africa, on behalf of their families, to build a better future. Now, I said in the opening, I expected this to be the most positive meeting anywhere on the planet, at least this week. And it's absolutely lived up to that. The discussion has ranged from the philosophical to the practical. And of course, we need to think, what is science? I think Charles put it beautifully. Science is the language of Africa. Of course, science was invented in Africa. We know that. Mathematics came from Africa. The first impressive constructions, the first telescopes were built in Africa. The first steam engine was in Africa. So science has a great claim to, Africa has a great claim to science, and science to Africa. Well, what is science anyway? We talk about it as if it was clear. So I put it, of course, we will all disagree exactly what science is, but I put it to you, really it's nothing more than logical reasoning and evidence, acceptance of evidence. And evidence brings up the notion of a courtroom, right? You hear evidence in a courtroom. And proof, even mathematicians, you hear them talking about proof. Where ideas come from? It's not a coincidence, the relationship with the courtroom. The idea that we are all subject to the laws of and to evidence really goes back a long way. And it's connected to notions of justice. You know, in ancient Greece, when they developed the idea that you could not simply convict somebody without proof. And at the same time, they were making mathematical proofs of certain statements. These two things came together. So for me, the acceptance of logic and evidence, goes together with the search for justice. And this came up in our discussion this afternoon about mathematics and communication of mathematics. And someone asked Kosher Burker a very nice question. Does mathematics make you a good person? And, he didn't say yes. And I know plenty of physicists, at least, who are not such good people, I have to say. But it should at least make you humble. Because when you accept either mathematics or science, you are accepting that there's something bigger than you. And that is logical reasoning, good reasoning, and evidence. And I think those things should make us humble. And when we look at society and how it's ruled today, and we see the kind of people who get into authority, these are not people who, many of them are not people who particularly respect logic or evidence, and that's a great pity. Whereas I think if you look, and when you ask what are the roots of that divergence of politics from science, why is it that many people who are very important in government and decision making and heads of companies even are not necessarily don't have much feel for science or don't feel it's that important often? Why did that happen? And it goes back a long way. It goes back to the Middle Ages, where there was, and even before, even in Greece, Pythagoras hid himself from the populace because he believed that mathematical knowledge was magic. It was so powerful. It's kind of magic. And he wanted to keep it secret because there's power in that knowledge. And unfortunately, scientists have gone along with that. And they've said, yes, we're happy to do our science. Somebody will pay the bill. We'll get our grants. We'll publish our papers. And we won't question anything else about society. And this separation of this becoming of scientists into technicians, right? And allowing maybe other people, more vocal or loud or forceful people, to run the world. That has happened over centuries. And we see it today in many countries. So if we think about what should science be in Africa, it needs to be based in humanity. It needs to be based in who we are as people and where we sit in the universe. Now, I mentioned the universe, and that's been mentioned throughout this meeting. You can't really discuss science without discussing the universe. But I'm particularly fond of the universe, and I'm particularly lucky to work on the universe. So I want to give you a picture of how lucky we are to be in this universe and where our place is in the universe. And as you may know, we have recently observed black holes. This is just an incredible discovery, which largely occurred, it was anticipated by ideas in Einstein's mind 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. He found the equations. Actually, somebody else solved the equations and discovered they predict black holes. So we've expected black holes for a long time, 100 years. And then finally the experiments were done, and there they are. On the other hand, people also using Einstein's theory, understood that the universe is expanding. There's a whole universe. And you can describe the universe using some simple equations. So these two concepts of black holes and the expansion of the universe actually, in a sense, set a boundary to human knowledge. Because imagine I'm using a microscope and I want to see something really small. Okay, what's the smallest thing I could see in principle? And there's a simple answer, which is to see small things, you need to use light of very short wavelength, right? That limits the size of what you can see. So imagine I build a more and more powerful microscope that goes to shorter and shorter wavelengths. So it's optical, X-ray, then you build a Large Hadron Collider at CERN, and you go to very high energies to see the Higgs boson, and you keep going. When would it stop? Well, it would stop when your light waves were so short in scale, and the energy of the photons they carry would be so high that as soon as this light wave touched anything, it could create a black hole, and then you couldn't see anything with it. And that's called the Planck length. That's the smallest scale we could possibly see. Now, what's the largest scale we could see? Well, the expansion of the universe, causes things to fly apart. And what we discovered in the last 20 years is that there's something called dark energy, and it's causing the universe to accelerate. Its expansion is not just at fixed speed, it's actually growing. So it's an accelerating expansion. This expansion sets a limit to how far we can see. It defines a scale. The scale is that length scale such that anything further, anything beyond there, is being accelerated away from us so fast that even if it emits light, it will never reach us. So we can never see it. The only way we see things is through light. We can never see further than how far light can travel. So this expansion of the universe, driven by dark energy, sets a limiting scale. That's the largest size possible that we can imagine observing. So we have the tiniest size and we have the largest size. And where are we? Well, the simplest idea in mathematics, if you're given two numbers, is multiply them together and take the square root, the geometric mean of those numbers. That's what you mean by in the middle. And you could do an average, of course, but one is really tiny and one is really huge. So it makes more sense to multiply them and take the square root. That's another size. What is that? That's the size of a living cell, right? It's between 10 and 100 microns. So life is in the middle of this amazing universe, the universe is very simple on small scales, very simple on large scales, beautifully simple pattern. And we are the most complicated things we know of in the universe. We as people, as living entities, especially with our intelligence when we use it, we are very interesting and complicated structures. In fact, maybe the most complicated that there is in the universe. So that places us in a special position, in a way a responsible position. We are like the leading edge of the universe. We can see everything. We can understand it. We can use that knowledge. I find that very inspiring because it tells us what the future will be like. We're not limited to anything. We're not really limited to this planet. We will, I believe, be able to travel. By the way, something extraordinary happened this morning. You may have seen the spaceship that was planned to go to Mars exploded on the test site. It crashed. And the engineer who built it, by the way, is an African. Elon Musk, engineer who built it, said, "Fantastic." He blew up the rocket, but he learned a lot. And he's more optimistic than ever that we will be able to travel to Mars and explore the universe. Now, we live in very troubled times. That's why these times are special. We're not just in a pandemic. We have climate change. We have political turmoil, and instability. And the pandemic has exacerbated these things, these trends. In particular, I'm currently in the UK. And from here, which is not handling the pandemic particularly well. And I talk to Lydie all the time, and Rwanda is handling it rather well and much better than the UK. But we see other extremes. We see the US, the most powerful, the richest country in the world, doing a disastrous job. And then we see in the East much more organized societies with much more collective notions doing rather well. And so these tensions and differences, which were already large, have become even more visible by this pandemic. And we have to ask, it makes us ask, is a laissez-faire society, right, which we have in the West, is that the best society? And what does science say about that? And I believe in Africa, if we want to make Africa the continent of the future, which we all believe it will be, we must take these lessons to heart. And I see that in Rwanda very, very much. Rwanda went through genocide, absolute disaster, and yet it has emerged as a shining example of the use of science, education, organization to protect people. And I'm not saying it has all the answers. I'm not saying that. But from the ashes can arise magical things. And we have to think about these things in Africa. So let's be narrow scientists. Let us be philosophers. Let us be dreamers. Let us think about the world, how it should be organized. Because these times of turmoil, although they are deeply saddening, right? And I myself, I'm quite sad. I'm isolated. I'm sitting at home. I can't be with students or colleagues. I can't be in Africa. It's terrible. But these times of turmoil in history have often been incredibly fruitful. We go back to Galileo. This time was very difficult. Or Newton. There were plagues of disease in those times. There were wars. There was a 30-year war in Europe, which was enormously destructive. Just after this time, they invented the microscope and the telescope, and there was a blossoming of science. And so turmoil can sometimes be incredibly stimulating. It challenges us. And then we're not complacent, right? Because we see all around us that things are not working well. And we have to act, and we have to use our brains to figure out how to make the things better. And that's basically what science is, just using our brains. So I want to say, again, let me just say, why Africa? Why should Africa be the place where science is reconfigured for the greater benefit of humanity? Actually, it's not difficult to see why. Which continent produced the greatest leader of the 20th century? I think it's universally acknowledged. There's nobody who compares with Nelson Mandela in terms of his ability not only to survive persecution and 27 years in prison and emerge as a good leader, but his ability to bring people together for reconciliation and to make South Africa an example of a multiracial society which works. Of course, nothing is perfect there, but it was an amazing achievement and one of the highlights of the 20th century. So Africa has produced, and many others, very wise leaders. I think it's hard to generalize, but everybody who comes to Africa is touched by the sense of humanity, of social obligation within African societies. I'll give you one trivial example. I was a teenager and I was hitchhiking across Africa when I was 18. And I was a bit irresponsible, right? So I ran out of money 1 week before my flight home from Nairobi back to the UK. So I arrived in Nairobi, and it's very good. George, you're there, are you? Are you in Nairobi, George? You're muted.
I am in Nairobi now. Yes, I'm in Nairobi.
So George, you know what I mean. I arrived in Nairobi. I got a bus with my last money. I arrived in Nairobi. Now, I had one contact there, and there was no internet at that time, right? So I had one address. It was the address of a professor in the university, which my father knew. So I went to the professor's office, and there was a secretary there. And I said, I'm looking for Professor X because, my father gave me his address. The secretary said, I'm very sorry, Professor is away. Professor's away, won't be back for a month. And I said, oh dear, because I don't have any money. And my plane is 1 week away. So guess what happens? Now, George knows exactly what happened. Tell me what happened, George. What did the secretary do? What would you do in Africa if somebody shows up like that? Somebody you don't know. What would you do?
Were you conned, or what happened?
No. Don't be negative. No.
Someone took you in Africa.
Yes.
Someone takes you
in. Thank you. Yes. She took me home, and that week I lived with her family. They took me everywhere. They looked after me. They delivered me to the airport for my plane. Okay, and this was normal. But it blew me away because I guarantee this would not have happened in England. Okay, I guarantee. So Africa has that sense. Everybody who comes to teach or to lecture at Ames is deeply touched by the spirit of the students. Another brief story. You saw Professor Ungler in the opening of this conference. He only came to Africa once. And the reason he came, he's a very critical man. You may have seen it in the session because I asked him a question and, he wanted to question the question. So So he's not easy to convince. But I asked him to come to Africa. I said, please come. He said, well, send me some information, some pictures, something. So I sent him some materials. And I spoke to him a week later, and he said, yes, I'm coming. I said, why? He said, I looked into the eyes of the people in those pictures, and I saw there what I no longer see in Belgium. Okay? And what did he mean? He meant there's an intensity, there's a focus, there's a determination, there's an interest in science. And I love what Charles said. You know, science can be the language of Africa. And even Nobel Prize winners are looking at Africa and they're seeing this. Okay? And so I want to leave you with this this message that Africa is the place. It really is the place. I mean it. We've missed each other sorely due to the pandemic. You know, Zoom or AirMeet is no replacement, but I have to give credit to the organizers. You know, this time I got more of a sense that Ames was organizing Neff than ever before. People like Charles, people like Lai, Kafui, organizing that everything works. This was Ames. It's amazing, right? It's really a big achievement. So, but we've missed each other. And the thing I miss most is the thing I remember best of the last Neff. And that was dancing. When it was all over, we had music and we danced for hours. And so what I want to ask all of you to do this evening is have a little dance, remember Neff, remember each other, and look forward to those times when we'll be back together. So thank you again. And I am delighted to hand over to Lydie, our wise leader, Lydie the leader, and to close the meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you for the team to lending me a computer so that I can be connected. Thank you very much. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. So we have come to the end of the first ever virtual edition of the Next Extension Forum Global Gathering. Thank you very much for joining us on this fun journey. This was not the plan. You know, the NEF-GG 2020 was set to take place in Nairobi from March 10 to 13, with over 2,500 delegates expected to attend. However, we had to postpone the event due to COVID-19 pandemic. But in spite of the global challenges, and we were conscious of the fact that this is one of the largest scientific gatherings and the expectation of all the stakeholders, we decided that the show must go on. So over 1,000 people registered to attend our first ever virtual global gathering. We see you, we see your commitment to advance science in Africa and your engagement to be part of the process. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for coming through, for making this event a success. So many people have supported us, not only through this virtual edition, but since the inception of the NEF Global Gathering. So let me take a moment to acknowledge some of our sponsors, the government of Kenya, the government of Rwanda, IDRC, Global Affairs Canada, Mastercard Foundation, Agence Française de Développement, Johnson & Johnson. But also let me acknowledge some stakeholders who participated in this virtual NEF Global Gathering. We have the Honorable Dr. Daniel Ngamije, the Minister of Health of Rwanda, Honorable Gasper Twagirayezu, the State Minister in charge of primary and secondary education. I would also like to thank all the scientists and Nobel Prize laureate, Professor Sir Richard Roberts, Professor Donna Strickland, Professor François Englert, Professor Kosher Bikar, Professor Jacques Maresco, Professor Léon Moutessa, and a very special shout out to the NEF Fellows and NEF Ambassadors, class of 2019 to 2021. With your latest edition, we now boast of a NEF community of scientists of 220 members. Once again, thank you very much for everything you did during this virtual global gathering. So the Neff gathering has brought together experts from various domains to reflect around science, leadership in terms of crisis, the digital economy, innovation and youth employment, as well as education, research and partnership. We are proud of how far we have come together, resolute in how far we are willing to go, and determined to hold on tight to the science and technology torch as we tread steadily on the path of Africa's scientific emergence. So thank you very much again, and have a great evening.
It's just that we can't hear anyone clapping. I think I put the emojis in the platform. So Lidi, that was definitely the best way to finish off. You've all thanked everyone who needs to be thanked, done all the work for me. Now we need to see one more thing. For the person who's supposed to cue it, here we go. This is, and Neil, don't forget you've made almost half of us cry, even in the comments as well. So at this particular point, please let's all watch the Neff Ambassadors flag ceremony. Then I'll be back.
Did you know that Neff Ambassadors are the next Einstein Forum's Young Science and Technology Champions, one from each African country, all under 42 years old? Neff Ambassadors drive the Neff's local public engagement activities, notably Africa Science Week, while growing their careers through AIMS partnership that offer opportunities for mentorship and collaborations with established researchers. Meet the 52 African scientists who made it to Neff Ambassadors class of 2019 to 2021. Justina Adoa Onuma from Ghana, Abdul Idris Omar from Djibouti, Abdoulaye Uribari from Guinea, Alda Manuel from Angola, and Bet Gedamo Tamirat from Ethiopia, Anik Lawrence Kusube from Burkina Faso, Anis Sofia Fernandez Pereira from Cabo Verde, Baltazar Ka from Guinea-Bissau, Birange Constantin Sa Oyono from Gabon, Beryl Birgitta Payet from Seychelles, Chioma Chukwu from Nigeria, Davina Lobin from Mauritius, Dikabo Mogopodi from Botswana, Ellie Mandela from Rwanda, Eric Gabriel Jen from Liberia, Fadimatu Nochemo Simo from Cameroon, Fadul Hussein Abba from Chad, Gladys Mosomtai from Kenya, Hassan Sila from Gambia, Ines Gasmi from Tunisia, Jessica Ramchund from South Africa, Josephine Des Uwaze from Democratic Republic of Congo, Luandle Simelane from Eswatini, Mamadou Tourad Diallo from Mauritania, Manara Assad Begira Arbab from Sudan, Mario Lopez from Sao Tome and Principe, Mohamed Lamine Bamba from Cote d'Ivoire, Mohamed Traore from Mali, Musa Hassan Hosseini from Niger, Ntia Ephraim Letsapo from Soto, Oliver Jolesia Hasimuna from Zambia, Omar Ibn Abdillah from Comoros, Usia A. Foli Bebe from Togo, Paul Demeve Mbongo from Congo Brazzaville, Philippa Ngaju Makobore from Uganda, Randria Velo Siri Nantenaina Rakotondra Tovo from Madagascar, Sakina Ben Abdel Kader from Algeria, Sama Bugarani from Morocco, Sebei J.B. Bomo from Sierra Leone, Shima Enami from Egypt, Cicelo Dube from Zimbabwe, Sophia Yusuf Abid from Tanzania, Talan Diaye from Senegal, Vijinagni Gregory Toto from Benin, Yusuf Chimole from Malawi. Congratulations to the latest addition to our Neff community of scientists.
I know how that video makes all of you feel, especially knowing that you're not there physically to wave your flag. I know how that video makes you feel, and of course, a lot of people would have loved to be part of it. I can see all the congratulations coming in from people, and even earlier, even before this, everyone was saying how motivated they were for the event. So I can only imagine what the Neff Fellows are getting into, and what the Neff ambassadors understand and how they feel about this. So now is the time to play the thank you note, but I will not come back after the thank you notes. Don't be sad. Don't be sad. Don't be sad. My time here is done, but I definitely know if I'm not invited to the next global gathering, I know where your offices are. I have all your emails and LinkedIns. I will mass email all of you to make sure I'm in the program again, and of course to get to know what else you're working on. It's been an extreme pleasure. We've thanked a lot of people, but I would just like to thank the collective on allowing a lot of people who don't understand what's happening within the science world and who don't understand, a scientist's brain, just allowing us to constantly ask you questions and constantly try to understand and make sure that scientists also know how to express themselves, because we had that in a previous setting where scientists were saying that they can communicate, but they communicate in numbers. But so it's nice to hear that communication also with words as well, and it's been phenomenal. Thank you very much. I'll put my LinkedIn in the feed. We can connect as much as possible. My handle on Twitter, I'll put it as well, and I'll encourage everyone to also put their details as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to the organizers, to everyone whom we've laughed with, shared, and had a great moment with. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had told the organizers that I will tell them to put their video on and wave. Where is everyone? Actually, you know what? Where is everyone at the back? Esther, I know you're there. Charles, I know you're there.
Yes.
None of you can hide. How many people can we fit on a screen? Do we know? Liddy's coming back. Charles. I know a lot of people like Lai, But anyway, just a quick wave. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to all of you who stayed here, this is day 3 and the energy is still there. You're still commenting. Thank you very much. Very, very, very much. Without further ado, the final bit for today. And we need to speak to the technical team to say a big thank you as well. This was fantastic. So thank you for that. Yeah, the unsung heroes. So please, let's all fix our eyes on the last item for today. Even as we say kwaheri to everyone, this is the thank you note, the thank you video. Bye bye. Bye everyone.